Good afternoon and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Lowry and I am a Policy Analyst at the Council of State Governments Justice Center. Before we begin, I have a couple of technical notes. If you encounter connection or audio problems during this webinar, please call WebEx Technical Support at 1-866-229-3239. We'll also post that number to the chat box on your screen. Unfortunately, there are some connection issues we may not be able to resolve during the webinar. However, we are recording today's webinar and it will be posted on our website along with a copy of the slides used in today's presentation. On today's webinar, we will review the application requirements for the Second Chance Act addressing the needs of incarcerated parents with minor children. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit questions in the Q&A box in the bottom right corner of your screen. We will have time at the end of the webinar to address the questions you have submitted, and we'll do our best to get through as many questions as we can before we conclude today. Joining me for today's webinar is Angela Parker, Program Manager for Corrections at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. In today's webinar, you can expect the following. First, we'll introduce our organizations and explain a bit about them. Afterwards, we will go over grant award information in the solicitation and cover grant expectations and a breakdown of the application's review criteria. We will then have a brief question and answer session with Angela Parker and myself and Jan de la Cruz. Please note that contact information for each presenter will be posted at the end of the webinar. Introduction to the Council of State Governments Justice Center and the National Reentry Resource Center. The Justice Center is a national nonprofit organization that serves policymakers at the local, state, and federal levels from all branches of government. Staff provides practical, nonpartisan advice and evidence-based, consensus-driven strategies to increase public safety and strengthen communities. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the background on the Second Chance Act. The Second Chance Act, which was signed into law in 2008, is the first federal legislation to authorize federal support for reentry programs. Recognizing how complex reentry initiatives are and the importance of integrating research and evidence into those initiatives, the Second Chance Act authorized the creation of a National Resource Center for adult and juvenile reentry. The Second Chance Act grant programs are highly competitive and sought after, and policymakers at the federal, state, and local level are looking to Second Chance Act grantees to advance our understanding of effective reentry and recidivism reduction practices. In 2009, following a competitive process, the CSG Justice Center was selected to launch the National Reentry Resource Center and provide training and technical assistance to all other Second Chance Act grantees. We administer the NRRC in close partnership with BJA and OJJDP. Technical assistance for Second Chance Act grants is provided by the National Reentry Resource Center, which is funded by the Bureau of Justice Assistance and managed by the Justice Center, providing support to SCA grantees and the broader field. The NRRC has delivered TA to over 600 Second Chance Act grantees and provides individualized, intensive, and targeted TA training and distance learning to support Second Chance Act grantees. The National Reentry Resource Center has 4 main objectives as a training and technical assistance provider. Provide a one-stop interactive source of current, user-friendly reentry information, identify, document, and promote evidence-based practices, advance the reentry field through training, distance learning, and knowledge development, and deliver individualized, targeted technical assistance to the Second Chance Act grantees. The Resource Center is continually adding new content and resources to our website, and we send out a monthly newsletter that provides information about the latest research, funding opportunities, distance learning events, and other news about reentry. To sign up for the newsletter, please visit the link on your screen after today's webinar. We encourage you to visit our website to access several publications and resources that promote and support the general field of reentry. In addition to the NRRC resources, these are valuable resources outside the NRRC to be aware of. These include crimesolutions.gov and NREPP, which provide information on evidence-based practices and curricula. The National Mentoring Resource Center, a project funded by OJJDP that provides TA and support to mentoring programs with a focus on youth, as well as the Center for Evidence-Based Mentoring and its associated newsletter, The Chronicle. Introduction to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Angela to walk through the goals and expectations of this grant program. Angela Parker is a program manager with the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention within the Office of Justice Programs. Her priorities within OJJDP include collaborating with other federal agencies on SCA grants and managing diverse grant programs and portfolios. She also works with states and counties to apply and interpret policies, guidelines, and regulations for federal grants that influence and inform projects aimed at reducing recidivism and improving the quality of life for youth across the country. Angela, I'll hand it off to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. Again, my name is Angela Parker, and I'm one of the program managers for the Second Chance Act Children of Incarcerated Parents Initiative. The other program manager, Gwen Dilworth, who is unfortunately unable to attend this webinar today due to another obligation, but she is a great resource to this initiative as she also works on other similar programs surrounding the Second Chance Act. We both are fairly new to this particular initiative, but have been in OJJDP for 20+ years, and will give all we have to ensure you have a positive experience when considering applying under this initiative. However, so I'm going to read the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention mission statement. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention provides national leadership, coordination, and resources to prevent and respond to juvenile delinquency and victimization. OJJDP supports states and communities in their efforts to develop and implement effective and coordinated prevention and intervention programs, and to improve the juvenile justice system so that it protects public safety, holds justice-involved youth appropriately accountable, and provides treatment and rehabilitative services tailored to the needs of juveniles and their families. Okay. Okay, our vision in the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention envisions a nation where our children are healthy, educated, and free from violence. If they come into contact with the juvenile justice system, the contact should be rare, fair, and beneficial to them. As you can see from the OJJDP organizational chart on the screen, our office is comprised of various levels of experts who provide these services to the field to combat the issues surrounding youth at risk. We have a fairly new administrator, Karen Hart, a principal deputy of administration, a chief of staff, and 2 senior advisors with staff that follow their lead, whether it be a deputy of operations or a deputy of programs. We just happen to work under the program side in the Juvenile Justice and Systems of Improvement Division. This division comprised of a deputy administrator, policy advisor, and 6 program managers. On this slide, you will see all of the OJJDP program divisions, and they are the Juvenile Justice and System Improvement Division. That's the division that we currently administer this grant through, and it administers policies and programs that connect directly with the juvenile justice system. The State and Community Development Division administers OJJDP's formula and block grants and major Department of Justice policy and program initiatives. The Youth Development Prevention and Safety Division administers policies and programs that focus on positive youth development and protecting children against victimization. OJJDP improves outcomes for individuals and families impacted by criminal justice. This is the Second Chance Act that was designed to improve outcomes for people returning to communities from prisons, jail, and juvenile facilities. The first of its kind legislation authorized federal grants to government agencies and nonprofit organizations to provide employment, assistance, substance addiction treatment, housing, family programming, mentoring, victim support, and other services to reduce recidivism and protect public safety. Okay, so now I'm going to speak a little bit on the grant award information. Okay, what's going on here? Okay. This slide right here is speaking directly to the OJJDP solicitation for the fiscal year 2018 Second Chance Act, addressing the needs of incarcerated parents with minor children initiative. This is a very important slide. The due date is May 22nd, and these applications are due in the system by 11:59 p.m. I want to point out a couple things in reference to this slide. It is highly encouraged that you submit your applications at least 72 hours before the due date. Try to at least, to accommodate any technical issues or any other reasons you may need to revise the application. But applications must be submitted online no later than this date. If for any reason you encounter any type of technical difficulties during this process, please refer to, I believe it's page 27 of the application, to determine how to best deal with these issues better. If there is nothing properly documented pertaining to any technical difficulties, the application will be automatically denied. So that's why I wanted to really emphasize on this slide in particular. Okay, the award information. There are up to, we plan to award up to 6 awards to be distributed, and each grant will we plan to fund $750,000 with a 36-month performance period beginning October 1st, 2018. The following link for the application is indicated below, and once again, the application due date is very important once again. Okay, the program goals and objectives. Number 1 goal, is to assist states and localities in developing or expanding services to meet the needs of incarcerated parents and their children. The second one is to support the delivery of transitional reentry services upon release to reduce recidivism and prevent violent crime. Third one, strengthen relationships between incarcerated parents and their children. This continues on to the next slide, number 23. Reduce the incarcerated parents' behavioral infractions during incarceration and recidivism after release. Provide services that foster positive youth development for children of incarcerated parents, and enhance child-parent communication. So those are the goals and objectives, and you can read further on those in the actual solicitation. Page 24 is the eligibility. OJJDP welcomes applications that involve 2 or more entities that will carry out the funded federal award activities. However, 1 eligible entity must be the applicant. For instance, the grant manager, the fiscal agent, and the other must be the proposed as the subrecipient. I want to clarify this once again. The state or the locality that will be applying for the grant award must be the main person on this grant award, but you can partner with nonprofits. I wanted to make that clear because we had some issues with that in the past. On slide number 25, evaluation of programs. Let me make sure I had the right one. Okay, priorities, consideration, and successful applicants. Successful applicants will address the needs of incarcerated parents and their children through reentry and transitional services. Evaluation of programs is essential. Interested in clearing defined outcomes and the impact of different services on those outcomes. The research partner can be an independent consultant or located in an academic institution, a statistical analysis center, or research organization. I just read that part, but I want to be very clear on that whole research part. If you're going to conduct research on this grant application or award, you must be very specific as to what type of research and how it's going to be conducted. There is going to be further information provided on that later on, but I wanted to emphasize on that whole research piece. If it's not going to be any type of research that's going to be conducted, please be very careful when using the words research and evaluation. And this is speaking from past award or past solicitations where applicants come in speaking about wanting to do research. Okay, evidence-based programs and practices. OJJDP and the NRRC strongly emphasize the use of data and evidence in policymaking and program development in criminal justice, juvenile justice, and crime victim services. Okay. Program and practices are considered to be evidence-based when their effectiveness has been demonstrated by causal evidence, generally obtained through one or more outcome evaluation. Causal evidence documents a relationship between an activity or intervention and its intended outcome, including measuring the direction and size of a change and the extent to which a change may be attributed to the activities or intervention. Application components. Successful applicants should include the following, must include the following: a project abstract that summarizes the proposed project in 400 words or less. Project abstract should be written for a general public audience and submitted as a separate attachment with its own file name. A program narrative that presents a detailed description of the purpose, goals, objectives, strategies, design, and management of the proposed program. A statement of the program included in the program narrative should briefly describe the nature and scope of the problem and the program will address. If possible, the applicant should use data to demonstrate the existence of the problem and the size and scope of the problem. The goals, objectives, and performance measures should be included to describe the program's intent to change, reduce, or eliminate the problems described by the applicant. Budgets must be clear and concise so that OJJDP's approval isn't delayed. Let me repeat that one more time. The budgets must be clear and concise. Where there are calculations, please break them down as much as possible and provide justification in all budget narratives to justify each budget expenditure. 28, mandatory project components. MOUs with corrections should demonstrate a relationship with the agency and facilities where the program will enroll participants. For instance, the regional prison facility and the state DOC overseeing it. MOUs should also be established with community corrections, probation, and parole. Integration of risk and need assessments. The lead agency can implement their own tool or utilize the results of a tool used by their correction partners. Either way, applicants should demonstrate how they'll use risk and needs assessments to focus services on those with the highest need and develop case plans to meet those needs. Baseline recidivism rate. Recidivism definitions vary in different jurisdictions. Ensure this definition matches the definition you'll use to track recidivism of program participants. Plan to measure outcomes. Very important piece right here. PMT outcomes and other outcomes that align with the goals of the program and grant. Ensure they are clearly defined and measurable. The target population. Programs should focus on adults with children younger than age 18 and who have been convicted as adults and are incarcerated at the time of program enrollment. Programs should focus their services on those who at medium or high risk to reoffend as determined by a validated assessment tool. This information is also clearly outlined in the solicitation for further information on this as far as the target population and who all should be involved. Okay, and on allowable uses of funds are clearly are going to be indicated on slides 30 and 31. You will find an example listing of what can be classified as allowable use of funds. A wide variety of services can be funded by the grant. Discuss what information should be included about each services that is proposed. What can and can't be funded by the grant can be found also in our financial guide, and that information is provided to you in the solicitation as well. The financial guide, while we're mentioning that, is a great useful resource or tool to use when developing your application because it clearly outlines what's allowable and what's not allowable. Okay, and on 31, there's more allowable uses of funds listed there. And like I said, this information is also broken out in the financial guide as well. Slide 32, the review criteria. The review criteria of each application is based on the weighted percentage as outlined on this slide and will be reviewed and scored accordingly. Therefore, please make sure you address each criteria as outlined in the solicitation with your plan for your program as detailed as possible to ensure the intent is properly captured during the reviewing process. Also, make sure you are mindful of the page limits and other structured requirements when generating such documents. And for additional resources, I'm going to pass it back over to CSG. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Angela, for that breakdown of the solicitation and the required sections in the solicitation. So at this point, we're going to discuss very briefly some of the additional resources. Here are some important contacts to be aware of when applying for this grant. If you need technical assistance with submitting the application, please contact the help desk information provided here. And I also want to remind everybody that you don't have to rush to copy this information down. Almost immediately after this presentation, this information is going to go up on our website. Here are some additional platforms for accessing resources and information from OJP related to OJJDP and this grant. So at this time, we'll go ahead and take questions. Please remember to use the Q&A box on your screen to submit your questions. And I think the first, Angela, the first question we have is SAM.gov registration required for submission?
Yes, it is for all applications.
Okay. Thank you. A follow-up question to that is an independent evaluation required by a university or research organization?
What
and
was
I believe,
that again?
the individual is asking if an independent evaluation is required by a university or research organization, if it's a requirement for this grant.
No, it is not a requirement of this grant award, no.
Okay.
However, I want to say this, if they do,
okay.
They need to be very clear with who they're going to use and what exactly they plan to do with the evaluation and how it's going to be compiled. They have to be very clear.
Yeah, I do recall that on one of the earlier slides you were emphasizing that it's not a necessary component of this grant track, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Another kind of follow-up question is where are these mandatory components, like the MOU or the baseline, et cetera? And I think, Angela, they're referring to like baseline data and to the memorandums of understanding that they have to establish with the corrections or the nonprofit providers.
Okay, so you're asking, is it mandatory?
Well, I think the individual is asking where they are. So with the MOUs, they would have to independently reach agreements with corrections folks or with nonprofits on MOUs, which are memorandums of understanding, correct?
Yes, exactly. They must, yes. They have to enter into an agreement to bind into, they have to bind into an agreement in order to work on this particular grant here.
And Angela, they would have to do that with like any of their partners too, not just the corrections folks, correct?
Exactly. Anyone that's going to be, one, receiving funds through the grant or going to be providing any type of assistance or work on this grant award, yes.
Okay. And I guess kind of a follow-up question is how early would you suggest to individuals applying for this grant who may get it, like how early should they start looking at developing MOUs and acquiring baseline data?
As soon as possible. Now, if you want to start entering into an agreement prior to finding out if you actually received the award, because we do take into consideration that a lot of these agreements are not finalized until after you guys actually are approved for the grant award and receive it. We do take all that into consideration. However, we need you guys to try to figure out up front where you plan to go with this program and who you plan to reach out to and enter into an agreement. Now, nothing has to be finalized at the time of the submission of the application, but we would like to know what your plans are and where you plan to go with the grant award. Say if you want to partner with an institution in your community or a prison or something like that, or a probation office, however you want to do it, you would have to give us a draft of what your plans are and like a draft MOU. That can always be revised, but we need to know what your plans are, because we have to take into consideration that a lot of these entities that you plan or that you anticipate partnering with don't always buy in until they actually know that you've actually received the grant award, and we do try to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Angela, in that they don't have to come with the application materials already having like concrete MOUs or concrete baseline data, because
nothing's set in stone. Nothing's set in stone, right?
Exactly.
But we would like to know what your plans are and where you plan to go with the grant award. And if you have some agencies in mind, by all means, list them, indicate them, and just let us know that you're still in the process of generating, but here is a draft of what your intent is.
Mm-hmm. And Angela, how important is the baseline data? Do they need to actually have like baseline data on recidivism rates in their county or their state written into their narrative to show that they have that knowledge, or can that be a piece later on?
I don't actually, I am so sorry, I'm actually working from home today. I don't remember seeing that in the solicitation, but I'm going to speak on experience from past solicitations. We do encourage you to have some type of baseline data to let us know that you do know what your target population will be and why you plan to target that population, because in the program statement, you're going to have to give us some type of indication in that area, so that once you read the actual solicitation, it will actually let you know what particular information you need in that particular criteria of the of the application.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. And
if you read the project statement, yes, that will clearly lay out what's needed in that section of the solicitation or the application.
Okay, thank you, Angela. And we also kind of have a few more questions that people are asking if you could repeat some of the information you provided earlier about the eligibility criteria, like who should apply.
Okay, the eligibility criteria, it's clearly outlined in the solicitation once again, but states and localities are the only ones that can come in as who can apply as the lead on the application, but you can sub-award your grant down to nonprofits or other entities as you feel can assist with your program.
Okay, and I think that's an excellent point to illustrate for everybody. So just in case we have a lot of directors or individuals who work at the heads of nonprofits working in the field of reentry, they would still have to apply through basically a state or a county agency, correct, Angela?
Exactly. And you can also, I'm encouraging those that aren't state and locals on this call to reach out to your representatives and let them know that you can help them with this program, because and that's the reason why I opted to do this webinar, to reach out and let you guys know that you can reach out to your state representatives or your locale representatives and let them know that you have this program and you're willing to step up and help them with that.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Another question we have is, would a school district be considered an eligible applicant as a unit of local government for this grant?
That's a municipality. So I'm going to say no, because I think we want to kind of stay on the state. I'm going to say no, because that's a municipality, and we're going to kind of stay on the state and government and agencies on that level.
Okay.
But I need to clarify that. So let me clarify that.
Okay.
You can go ahead to the next one. I'm going to clarify that right quick.
Okay. Thank you. And the next question is, in regards to the MOUs required, if we are proposing a program at a state prison, in addition to an MOU with the Department of Corrections, do we also need one with community corrections?
Wait a minute, say that one more time.
Yeah, they're basically asking if they also need to, if they have got an MOU with the state DOC, if they would also need to get one, I think, with their community corrections agencies, like maybe their parole agencies. Like in New York State, we have DOCCS, which is community supervision. So they're essentially asking if they would have to get one from a state DOC and then also maybe a community service agency.
Yes, because the state has to enter into an agreement with the entity that they plan to work with. So yes, they have to enter into some type of agreement.
Okay, thank you. And
it's
the next question.
It's better to have it than not have it.
Okay.
For various reasons. Just because you want to enter into a relationship with that entity, so it's better to have it.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, do halfway house programs qualify for this grant?
Halfway houses can, they qualify as the subrecipient, but not the lead.
Okay.
The state can enter into an agreement with them, yes.
Okay. And here's another question, which is, would assistance with child support issues be an allowable expense?
That one right there is kind of tricky because I've never had that to ever come up. So off the top of my head, I can't answer that right now. So I can get that information. If that person, you can let that person know that if they want to send me an email personally, or the email address that's been provided, I can get them that information.
Okay, all right. You know, and I think with that question, I don't know if they're asking whether or not funding attached to this grant could actually help individuals pay off child support, which I mean, I don't think I've come across that with any other grants, but maybe if they're asking about using allowable funds for counseling of some sort, maybe that might actually pass.
You saying that you think it will?
I mean, I'm not really certain. I know I've never worked with any grantees who've been allowed to use any funds to help individuals pay off their child support expenses.
No, I don't think so either. No, they can't. They can assist them in some kind of way with providing them the resources that can help them, but they cannot pay it off. I know they can't pay it off.
Okay.
Because we would be a federal agency paying off
yes.
a debt to another, and we can't do that. That's
exactly. That's
what
I thought as well. Okay. The next question, Angela, is, I saw that individuals served must be convicted and incarcerated at the time of enrollment. I want to clarify, does this mean that individuals who are incarcerated in jail pre-trial but not yet convicted are not eligible for services under this grant, or are they eligible?
According to the eligibility of this solicitation, they have to be convicted at the time of enrollment into this program, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And here's kind of another question. I know you covered it earlier, but maybe we can go back over it quickly for anybody who missed it. This individual is asking, if a final MOU is not completed in time for submission, would a letter of intent signed be accepted as part of the application?
Yes, and just let us know that this is what you intend to do. However, as soon as everything is finalized and you're able to bring everybody on board to sign the actual memorandum of understanding / agreement, that's absolutely acceptable, yes, at the time of submission of application.
Thank you. And Angela, can you just clarify for us, for the audience once more about who can apply? There seem to be a lot of questions where people seem to be confused about whether or not the state has to be the lead applicant or what agencies within the state can apply. I know that you established earlier that nonprofits cannot be the lead applicant. You know, nonprofits can go to state agencies and county agencies and petition them to apply and form partnerships with them, but they can only be the sub-award recipient, correct?
Correct, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Another question is, sorry for being late to the presentation, but please ask Angela what she is saying. In my case, the state of California would have to be in this agreement in order for us to be in the agreement. I think you just covered that in this in your most recent response. So a lot of the a lot of the questions were basically around who should apply and how to apply, and I think you just clarified that.
Right, and yeah, and you know, I want, like I said, it's okay for the nonprofits or the non-state entities to be on this call, but reach out to your state representatives or your juvenile justice representative and just ask them how could they enter into a partnership with them, because you have a great idea or a great program currently going on and you think that this is something that you guys can benefit from, or you know, it's okay to do that, but it's just that the state or the locality must be the lead on the grant award. Most of the time, the state is not going to probably have anything to do with it, but they have to be the lead on the application.
Okay. All right. So that kind of puts some of the onus on the nonprofits who are attending today to go out and bridge those relationships with the state and with with county corrections, correct? And
we highly encourage you to do that anyway, because a lot of these funds are now coming through the state. So once you form that partnership, then you just don't know what other doors will open. So that's why I highly encourage you guys to form those relationships with the state.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. And I think even on grant tracks where it's not a requirement that it be a state office or a state agency or county agency that is the lead applicant, even in instances where a grant is targeted for nonprofits, nonprofits still have to go out, though, and cultivate those relationships and get those MOUs with the state and with corrections generally. So this isn't really anything different except just asking the state to be the lead applicant.
Exactly.
And we have one more question.
In this case, I don't mean to talk over you, but most of the time in this case here, what we anticipate will happen is that the nonprofit or the detention center or whoever is going to be actually performing the work will be the one that's doing most of the work. It's just that the funds would be distributed to the state. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. We have another question, which is, can this grant be used solely for services for children of incarcerated parents, or does there have to be services provided to the incarcerated parent? And
well,
I think what they're asking.
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Angela.
No. I think you can explain it better.
Okay, I think with this one, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, but services should be targeted towards both the participants themselves, meaning the parents, both during the pre-release phase and the post-release phase. You should be offering some kind of services to them as well once you enroll them, but also target services to children. And this is kind of an attempt to address some of the collateral damage of having a parent incarcerated, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Because the whole purpose of this is to form a better relationship between the incarcerated parent and their child, as well as safety issues, visitation, all of that. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And we have one more question. Someone is asking if for-profit entities can be listed as subrecipients on this grant.
See that? I don't think we've funded for-profits in the past. So I'm going to say no on that. But once again, it would be clearly outlined in the solicitation, and I don't remember seeing that being a plus in the solicitation. Right now, I think it's non-profit. I don't think it's for-profit. I don't think for-profits can. There is a blurb. Once again, this goes back to the federal guideline for-profit applicants. So you might want to go back and read whether the solicitation indicates it or not. The federal guideline is where our financial guideline is where you need to get that information from, because there's a lot of stipulations that come with for-profit applications applying for federal awards.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Angela. I'm kind of leaning towards what your initial response was. I don't think I've worked with a grantee on any other grant track where they had a for-profit as a subrecipient.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so either. Not on this, especially if it's geared towards state. So, no, I don't think so.
Okay. And one individual is asking, Angela, if more than one nonprofit can be providing services on the grant.
Sure. If the state agent decides that they want to, definitely. We highly encourage that.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of the other grant tracks too, you often find that grantees have to work or partner with several different nonprofits just to get the appropriate services, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely correct.
Okay. So I think that may have been our last questions. I can hold for 1 minute to see if anybody else has a question for Angela or myself.
And just let them know that the Resource Center that has been provided to them is a good resource if they have any further questions, or they can contact me directly via email, and I would be more than happy to provide them the proper response that they need. But we need those applications submitted by May 22nd.
Yeah, there's only a couple weeks left.
Yeah,
so,
unfortunately, yeah.
So having said that, I think we've covered everybody's questions.
Okay.
So this concludes the webinar. Recording along with a PDF of the slides used today will be posted on the National Reentry Resource Center's website. Please remember to sign up for our newsletter to get the latest updates on reentry resources and funding opportunities. And thank you to Angela, and thank you all again for joining us and asking questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.